back everyone for the last session of the symposium for partnership building. And in this session, we'll have free discussion. So those who are in the back sides, please come forward to front seats, please. To the front seats, please. And in this session, we'll discuss building effective partnerships for the SDG implementation. Now, I'd like to present the moderator of this session, Ms. Adriana Alberti, Chief Capacity Development Unit, DPIDG UN DESA. Please welcome her with a big hand.
Good afternoon. I hope you enjoyed your lunch, and I hope you're still energetic. This is going to be a very interesting, I think, session, because the title of this event is Building Capacities of Public Institutions and Developing Effective Partnerships. So we will now devote 2 hours to discussing the concepts of partnerships and also to have some table discussions. The discussions are going to be very rich, and actually this session is composed of 4 different sessions. The first session will be a reporting back from the group sessions and the plenary sessions. The second one is going to be a presentation and a panel discussion on UN DESA Capacity Needs Assessment. The third one will be dialogue between UN country participants of past capacity development activities and other training institutions. And finally, you will have an opportunity to discuss among yourselves what types of partnerships can be built, what types of capacity support can be offered, and what types of capacities are needed, and this will be at your own tables. So it's a very rich agenda, and it will focus both on partnerships for the SDGs as well as on capacity development. So let me begin now with the first portion of this session, which is to hear back from all of the wonderful rapporteurs. We had, I think you may agree, very interactive and high-level speakers, and I am sure that the key recommendations from each one of these rapporteurs is going to be extremely insightful. And although we may have wished to be in all of the various breakout groups, but we couldn't. So this is the opportunity for us to learn about the recommendations from all the groups, including from our working group of schools of public administration. So let me now invite to the stage the first 7 rapporteurs, because we have 12 rapporteurs altogether. So I would like to invite to the stage Ms. Incheon Park, Mr. Rajkumar Prasad. Please, as you join, be seated. Ms. Arifa Shaifuddin, Mr. Brian Larish, Mr. Ganendra Awang Kristandia, Ms. Roshni Sen, and Mr. Kaping Yao. And we will have just to remind you that so you have 2 minutes each, and timekeeping is of the essence if we want to go through the various, 4 components. So we have our timekeepers. I think they're sitting on this table. Here he is. Yep. So please, make sure that you see our colleague here who will be keeping the, okay, so we understand that Mr. Kumar, unfortunately, is not here, but he may join us. But we will begin the session nevertheless. So I will now invite the first rapporteur for plenary session 1, Ms. Incheon Park. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, originally the rapporteur for this plenary session 1 was our colleague Ms. Katinka Weinberger from UN ESCA, but unfortunately she had to fly back last night, so I'm delivering the key messages based on the summaries that she has made. For this plenary session, We've discussed, I know that this one was a first session on the first day. I don't know you would remember what we have discussed. For me, it feels like already a long time ago. But we've discussed the cross-cutting roles of public institutions in SDG implementation. We also reviewed the regional progress of SDG implementation. And then we had 3 country cases presentation on their preparation process for the VNRs. So based on those discussions, the key messages that session has drawn include that public institutions need to be enabled to break out the silos to fully realize the very benefits of the synergistic actions and effectively manage the unavoidable trade-offs across the SDGs. We've also seen that mobilization of local governments is key for achieving the 2030 agenda. Also, we've emphasize the increasing inequality and lack of attention to the most vulnerable and those furthest left behind threatens the achievement of 2030 agenda. Yet, public institutions face challenges in reaching out to these groups as there is a lack of information and disaggregated data. Also, national visions for implementation of the 2030 agenda cannot be achieved without participation of the people. And during the group discussions, very active group discussions that we had, the participants shared many examples indeed, ongoing initiatives and mechanisms on building effective, accountable, and inclusive public institutions. And the 3 country presentations on the Vienna process highlighted that an effective follow-up and review framework is a crucial aspect of accountability to the people and can be very successful if the highest levels of government take full leadership. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So please let's give a round of applause to our first rapporteur, plenary session 1. Now I will move to plenary session 2, part B, and I would like to invite Ms. Arifa Shaifuddin to have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrena. Okay, so I would like to share the key messages during the panel session, plenary session 2, part B. So the key messages that were shared during the session by the distinguished speakers were artificial intelligence needs to be the core technological agenda in digital government as it progresses from digital government to intelligent government. Digital transformation must cover partnerships, community engagement, policy making, and multi-stakeholder collaboration, although the implementation must be customized for each country. There's also highlights on blockchain, data sovereignty, and cybersecurity as focus areas due to its potential as well as its impacts to the society, be it positive and negative. So in terms of policy recommendation, there needs to be an enabling national AI policy framework and guidelines and laws to ensure AI use is ethical and not violating any rights of the citizens, governments, as well as the private sector. There also needs to be conscious efforts by the government to involve private sector in when they develop these laws, these policies, and private sector can be the drivers while government ensures relevant laws and policies are enabling and supporting the private sector initiatives. And finally, I want to also make a recommendation for policy development to consider using the sandbox approach to be agile and responsive in the fast-moving digital era. So for example, you could consider the government sector could consider design and develop a minimum viable product based on citizen needs, pilot the implementation, do a few rounds of iterations, and once it is scalable, then only you put it into the government machinery for policy making and to be tabled to cabinet for approval. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So now for plenary session 3, Mr. Brian Lariche, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. In the first area, we were deciding which were the key marginalized groups that we were looking at. all the different, it was a very diverse panel. The groups identified included women, youth, disability, LGBT, the migrant worker, and the refugee. But it was clear that during the discussion that the disability group was unanimously agreed to be the, the primary marginalized group that we were all agreed on very easily. There were a couple of areas we looked at, and I also forgot the very important is the aging population, the aging group, right? Key messages we want to look at, starting to look at preparing the population from now to age gracefully. How do they prepare themselves for old age? So financial literacy or financial planning is something they need to look at and understand the basics. Simplify the changes that are happening rapidly to the community to understand, especially with the older community, when things are going too quickly, they cannot catch up. The need to expand civic space, that we have more space for democratic discussions and inclusion. Also, the concept of including private corporations. The government cannot do this alone. Civil society plays a big hand, of course, but in tandem together with corporations. Corporations can only make money when the citizens are wealthy. Otherwise, they make no money. And the idea of sensitivity training is something that we talk about. The policy recommendations include running business skills programs. There were many that brought the idea up of creating business skills programs for the disabled. Not every disabled person is academically inclined. Perhaps the idea of starting a business would be something to look at. Working with civil society organizations, that as much as the government is good at doing certain things, civil society organizations sometimes are more efficient and run on a different model, and therefore can give a higher return of investment to programs. Better use of social media is something to look at to understand the youth issues. That is something that we should look into deeper, and also the usage of big data. And the concept of outsourcing, right? The concept of outsourcing work that normally done by a government can be done by a civil society organization. Those are the key messages that we discussed in plenary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now moving on to the breakout groups of session 3. For the breakout group session 3-1, I invite Mr. Ganendra Awang Kristandia. You have the floor, sir.
So the fact that I'm standing here representing young people and stating the policy recommendation is a testament that the involvement of young people is an integral part in achieving sustainable development goals. During our discussions, ladies and gentlemen, we agreed that young people are perceived commonly as self-centered and incapable generation, whereby they have a potential waiting to be unleashed to foster positive impacts. We also agree that collaboration between government and youth should put emphasis on two-way trust, meaning that youth should earn the trust from the government, while on the other hand, government should appeal to youth and get the trust for better youth participations in politics and also public governance. Youth involvement should be based on the values of leaving no one behind, meaning that youth involvement should involve every layers of youth from urban, rural origins, marginalized communities, disability, vulnerable communities, indigenous community, etc. So we, as the representative of young people, give 3 policy recommendations based on the agreement of the groups. 1, government need to employ meaningful youth participations to approach the young people. Youth should not be seen as mere beneficiaries, but should be engaged as partners or leaders. Young people should not be seen as an object, but part of the subject that should be actively engaged and also involved. Number 2, government should always include the unheard and also the unreached community. And lastly, when it comes to youth, nothing about youth without youth is for youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Moving on now to the group session 3, subgroup 2. Ms. Roshni Sen, you have the floor.
Thank you. This group was on women inclusion and participation. There were 4 presentations, one on the prevention of early marriage and education for adolescent girls from India. The second was the cervical cancer prevention and management for rural women from Thailand. There was one on women empowerment from Malawi and digital platforms for empowerment and employment of women from Malaysia. What are the key issues? them to empower women by giving them access to education, preventive health, public services, finances, skills and employment. Social evils against women need to be eliminated to prevent generational cycles of disempowerment. Technology is to be used extensively for reaching the benefits to the poorest and the most vulnerable women. So what are the key messages? Political will and intensive grassroots communication is necessary to make success of programs. Message has to be simple and comprehensible to the beneficiaries. Basic knowledge and simple techniques can deliver the goods if there is a will. With proper use of technology and good governance, the result may be low cost and high impact. What are the policy recommendations? Approaches are to be built on outcomes based on data. Local leadership is to be involved in implementation of programs. Strong legislation along with the political will associated with it, necessary to make success of initiatives. Governments may work in close collaboration with private sector in areas where benefits are to be reached to the people through digital platforms. New avenues of employment may be identified and encouraged through digital literacy programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now for group session 3, subgroup 3, my colleague, Mr. Kaping Yao, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The session 3, group 3, is we discussed about the aging issue. And the key issue that we addressed basically is about against the gender background of the fast aging population in many countries. And also the older persons tend to be excluded from the policy making process. And also it's very important that we should look at the aging as an opportunity rather than a burden. And also the aging population, they are fast becoming a public policy issue, particularly for some countries. And also we have some key messages to be shared with you. One is that the government ministry should work together, should set up into ministerial group to work together. Secondly, it should mainstream aging as a public issue. Third is we should have a multi-stakeholder engagement to collaborate with the private sector and other civil society organizations. The government should provide subsidized services such as transportation to address the issue of the mobility issue of the elderly persons. And also cultural perspective should be also taken into consideration. And also social isolation of the older persons should be also be in high policy consideration. Some policy recommendation. One is that the seniors, we should set up a seniors support group or network. Government should work through in a whole government approach. We should look at the aging as the policy issue. And also we should provide aging friendly infrastructure services. ICT could provide opportunity for the elderly people. Some countries, they have the community center that like Korea and Singapore for the 24-hour service for the older persons. And also digital literacy could become a very important channel to address the mobility issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and this concludes the first part of the rapporteur session. I would like to thank again the rapporteurs for these very concise recommendations. Kindly join your seats because I will now introduce the new set of rapporteurs. Thank you very much. A warm round of applause. And just to let you know that we will consolidate these messages and they will be available online so that you will also be able to share them with your colleagues once you go back to your own countries. Now I would like to invite the following rapporteurs: Mr. Eka Chandrabuana, Ms. Gina Bonne, Mr. Meleti Bainimarama, Mr. Siope Vakataki Ofa, and Ms. Maria Fe Villamejor Mendoza. Very good. So we will now start with plenary session 4, and we will hear from Mr. Eka Chandrabuana. You have the floor.
Thank you for the moderator. Now I want to conclude about the plenary session 4, about the gaps in data and statistical capacity building. Number 1, about the achievement of SDG goals. Target and indicators have to synchronize with the national goals, including cross-cutting issues and subnational authorities. The adjustment is needed to make sure that the national goals have a connection with the global. The second one, most of development countries have a problem with the data gap, such as like scattered data, restricted data, lack of coordination, or maybe due to the regulation. Besides that, independence data is the other issues, because sometimes the data becomes a tool for politicians to get the good image for the people. The next agenda or policy recommendation. First, about the data improvement. The data improvement and the achievement of the SDGs need the strong commitment from the leader, president, prime minister, etc. Because the improvement not only in the data itself, but include the coordination among sectors, tiers, private sector, etc. And the improvement of data, it's good for the monitoring and evaluation of the program. The second recommendation, the achievement to the SDGs is not only by government itself, but government have the strong engagement with the non-government sector, such as like private sector, NGOs, and things like that. The third one, about the collaboration with the other. To get the independence data and accurate policies, government should cooperate with the other institutions, such as like universities. Because universities sometimes have a lot of research, methodology, and concept, and government have expertise in the implementation level. So it's a combination between the government and university. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now for plenary session 5, Ms. Gina Bon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Session 5 was chaired by Mr. Sanjaya Bhatti from the UNISDR. And we had 5 speakers. We had examples coming from the island states, Vanuatu, Fiji, and then we also, from the Indian Ocean Commission, myself on the regional perspective. And then we had also 2 from Bangladesh and from a society in looking at the mountain issues. So the presentations itself, we spoke basically on aligning the policies. What is there in the policy aspects? How do we go about doing it? We had these examples. Then one of the key issues that keep coming up was how do we, on the practical side, I think, is how do we put it into the implementation. So the recommendation coming from that meeting, from that session, was that we should really look at how do we use the data to inform policies and for the planning. Secondly, we also looked at how do we address the underlying issues such as land management, waste management to address DRR. And thirdly, it was the necessity to look at finance. How do we access finance?
Thank you very much. And now for group session 5-1, we have Mr. Meleti Bainimarama. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. We discussed on disaster risk reduction strategies and climate change adaptation. 4 presentations. The first was by Green Climate Fund, Bhutan, Exmod, and of course, final one was from Fiji, giving our different strategies and disaster risk reduction strategies and climate change adaptations. The recommendations that came from our discussions this morning was 1, the importance of partnerships, in developing disaster risk reduction strategies and climate change adaptations. One example was the Green Climate Fund and countries that they were working in partnership together to develop these strategies. One was Colombia, Green Climate Fund. The presentations today was Colombia and Rwanda. And in speaking about partnerships, an important recommendation too that came was about regional partnerships, working within the region. The Pacific region, the Himalayas region, the importance of donors listening to countries that requested financial assistance. And last but not least is the importance of linkage of all ecosystems, reef to ridge. The importance of looking after, the example that came from us was, if you looked after the ecosystems up in the Himalayas, the ecosystems down in the Bay of Bengal would profit from that. So one of the important recommendations that came from us was the importance of linkage of ecosystems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now for the group session 5-2, Mr. Siope Vakataki Offa, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Our group focused on digital government and technological innovations for resilient and sustainable societies. There were 3 presentations in this group. The discussions was very rich. I'll try my best to give justice to the discussions. It focuses on innovative technologies, government strategies for digital connectivity, disasters management, AI, GIS satellites, imageries, and all those. So from these discussions, a couple of recommendations came out. The first one is to strengthen the use of innovative technologies like blockchain and relevant applications, remote sensing for disaster resilience. Second recommendation that came out clearly is to enhance public awareness on disaster preparedness. The third one is to coordinate the baseline on ICT infrastructure data for current and future evaluation. The fourth one is to strengthen cross-border connectivity between countries, ICT that leads to better connectivity and use of innovative technology for the future. And the last one is to enhance digital literacy and skills for effective use of the internet for growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the group session 5-3, we have once again Ms. Gina Bonne. You have the floor.
Thank you. For this session, it was chaired again by UNISDR. And we had 4 presentations, one from the African Development Bank, one from myself, Indian Ocean Commission. Then we went to Samoa from the Ministry of Finance and from the Green Climate Funds. We were looking at effective financing for resilience. In the session, we had quite a bit of discussions around the capacity gaps in the countries to access and to manage funds. We also looked at the role of the private sectors. We looked at the different types of innovative funding mechanisms. And one thing that came up very often was the reporting and the M&E systems, which we felt was very lacking in many of the countries. And that was something that came up as well very recently from the Island States meeting in Sri Lanka, which was also organized by UNISDR. So I think from what the group agreed upon is that there is a need to really enhance capacity at all levels, and not only for the access of the funds, but more specifically is on how do we manage the funds and what are the various requirements that are there from the various funding agencies. And also it is one other thing that came up very strongly was how do we ensure that the fundings that are going to the countries, they are relevant or they are aligned to the national development plans. So these are the things that came up as we believe as very important contributions. The coordination and mechanisms that needs to be put in place at national level were also discussed and came up as important issues. So, but the main cause, the main area where people felt that there was the need was to access and manage the funds and the reporting and M&E system. Thank you.
Thank you. Double applause, please. Thank you very much. Now for our final rapporteur, for the workshop of schools of public administration on equipping capacities of public servants to implement the SDGs, I would like to invite Ms. Maria Fe Villamejor Mendoza. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Unlike the other sessions, our session is basically on a training workshop on the global initiative for schools of public administration and the SDGs. So we worked hard. We were isolated in room at the 6th floor, the 8th floor, and we shopped for ideas. And these are our outputs so far. Basically, our task is to try to explore possibility for a common curriculum or a curricular offering that will mainstream SDG and train and capacitate public servants to have values, competencies, and a different mindset in order that there will be more possibility of successful implementation of the SDG. So what our group did was to map out some of the competencies and the mindsets that are needed to be changed. And they are based and anchored on the main principles of the SDG, which are transformative, integrative, leaving no one behind, and universality. So these are the tentative and preliminary lists of mindsets and competencies. And then moving forward, we try to work out the learning objectives that will frame our curriculum offering. And they are three, basically, for the public servants to understand the principles and goals of the SDG, for them to propose solutions, and then for them to be able to raise awareness about the 2030 agenda. Basically, they are supposed to further raise awareness or improve the implementation of the SDG. And then we try to find out if it's possible for us for a 3-day session to work out on a curriculum. And the curriculum is not yet there. So our work is a work in progress. And we hope, but moving forward, may the last slide, please. These are the possible topics of the curriculum. And the last slide is, the last slide, please. Okay, so these are the follow-up steps. We are reporting now the outputs of the workshop, and then we are formally establishing a task force, initially composed of the 12 members and the AAPA, but the task force is open for volunteers. And then we'll try to agree on a competency framework and then explore further and discuss more online from October to March. And hopefully, after refining the framework, we will be able to launch a curriculum framework and pilot modules during the public service forum sometime in June, and or at the higher level policy forum in New York sometime in July. So that's our output. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you again for these rich, informative, and inspiring presentations. You were very concise, but I think to the point, and it's quite a learning experience for all of us. Again, all the messages will be consolidated. I will not try to summarize because that would be another report, but please give them a very warm round of applause, and I invite you to now join your seats, please. Thank you very much. Now we begin the second session of this partnership and capacity building session. And I would like to invite Mr. Kaping Yao to the stage, and then Mr. Salvo Chamo. Mr. Salvo Chamo, you all know Kaping Yao, UNPOC, DPIDG, UN DESA. And Mr. Salvo Chamo is Monitoring and Evaluation Officer, Ministry of Land, Environment, and Rural Development from Mozambique. This session is about a capacity needs assessment for SDG implementation in Asia and the Pacific and Eastern Africa that we have conducted a year ago to understand what are the key challenges, capacity gaps, and what are the needs in terms of implementation of the SDGs. And Mr. Kaping Yao is going to provide a synthesis of that exercise, followed by Mr. Salvo Chamo, who is representing one of the participating countries, who will then give us his own feedback on the capacity needs and assessment. So, Kaping, you have the floor.
Thank you, Adriana. Good afternoon again, everyone. I would like to give you a brief introduction about the capacity needs assessment that DPIDG and our office work together to assess the situation and the capacity needs of the government institution to implement the 23rd Agenda. This exercise has been conducted since last year, like June or July, until May this year. We are still finalizing the report, so hopefully we can wrap up the whole report, then share with you. So I would like to have an overview of the capacity needs assessment, a structure of the questionnaire, and a collaboration with other UN agencies, because we do this kind of survey not just by ourselves, but also work together with the UNDP and regional commissions of the UN. And also some brief introduction about response rate and ongoing efforts, and also some analytical facts and other challenges identified, and also support expectations from the countries to us. So this capacity needs assessment of a government institution to implement the 23rd Agenda, we distribute a questionnaire to 47 countries. We received the reply from 20 countries. And a letter, due to the importance of SDG localization, we also conduct some subnational level capacity needs assessment on the occasion of the International Marriage Forum held in May this year in Malawi, Lilongwe. So altogether, we received 44 replies from 21 countries on the subnational level capacity needs assessment. So the objective is to assess the public institutions' capacity needs and the priorities in implementing the 23rd Agenda, and also to analyze the progress, and also develop provide us some information how to better develop training and capacity development work. And also this is the structure of the questionnaire. And first part is about integration of SDG in the national development process. The second part is about public administration and public services in SDG implementation. The part 3 is how to mobilize in civil society. Basically, it's about multi-stakeholder engagement. And also we also talk about the resources and technology, and about the monitoring and reviewing. And also, finally, what's going to expect a rule from UN DESA. So we have worked together with the UNDP and also the UNDP Bangkok Region Hub, and also UNDP African Regional Hub. And also we work together with the commissions, with ECA and SGAP. And also this is the response rate. So altogether, we have 3 groups. We distributed the questionnaire to 16 seats, 19 LDC, LADCs, and 12 questionnaire to the lower income countries, yeah. And also, this kind of priority areas we identified where countries need support for effective SDG implementation. So basically about the capacity development training, the tools for capacity development, knowledge exchange, and the peer-to-peer learning. And also this one is, based on other collection of the questionnaire. We identify the challenges If you can see that among the three groups of countries, the challenges are slightly different. Although there are some commonalities, but still some challenges, some differences. For example, for 6 countries, the first number 1 is the monitoring review and follow-up. The second one is on the financial resources problem. The third one is about limited human resource capacities. The fourth is about lack of long-term strategy direction due to the unstable political situation. And finally, it's about the specific vulnerability of seeds. For the LDCs, the number 1 challenge is about coordination mechanism. Number 2 is the financial issues, financial resources. The third one is a monitoring review and a follow-up. The fourth is about the challenge that they cite the most is about localization of SDGs. The fifth is about human resources capacities. And again, for the middle-income countries and low-income countries, and also, again, the first challenge is about monitoring review and follow-up. Second one is about human resources or technical capacities. The third challenge is about financial resources. The fourth one is about the means of coordination and integration. And finally, it's about the subnational SDG implementation. So if you see from this kind of 3 groups, you can see there are many kind of commonalities across the 3 groups. Although the sequence or the challenge they feel, it's kind of the sequence is slightly different. And also, this the support areas that are expected from DPIDG. So for the seeds, the most expected area is about institutional arrangements, about how to support their innovative public service delivery and ICT development, and how to develop partnership, and how to reinforce transparency and accountability. And also about how to engage in the citizens, and finally, how to mobilize the financial resources. For the LDCs, it's about how to develop the capacity of public administration. Second is about the development of capacity in monitoring and monitoring, review, and follow-up. Third one is about innovative funding mechanism. Finally, it's about enhancing coordination across government stakeholders. And also, how do UN can support them about South-South peer learning. For the low-income and middle-income countries, the first one is how to support the public administration development. The second one is how to reinforce the transparency and accountability. The third one is about the raise awareness of the public, of the general public. The fourth one is about how to develop the partnership, and also how we can better guide them on monitoring, review, and follow-up. And also then it's about localizing SDGs and how to mobilizing the financial resources. Yeah, thank you. It's a general introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaping, very much. And now we will hear from Mr. Salvo Chamo some of the capacity challenges in Mozambique. So you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Salvo Chamo. I'm monitoring and evaluation officer for Minister of Land and Environmental Development. As I said, the moderator, I was just going to share some capacity needs challenge regarding the CDG implementations. I think this instrument is very useful and meaningful exercise for us to strengthen that process in Mozambique. And I recognize that the countries still a lot to do regarding the CDG implementation, regarding the strength, the structure in place, and also the coordination mechanism. Yeah, this exercise, you engage different sectors to find out, to map all the relevant policies, plans, programs which are much related to CDG's indicators. And of course, we find some difficulty because of technical capacity. Understand of this concept for some officer, it was new concept, some it was none of their business, but you engage with them, you adopt other strategy, like face-to-face meetings to disseminate it and get the feedback. For our assessment, the key challenge that you find out is regarding that Mr. Keeping saying, monitoring and reporting. That's a key challenge for us. How to report on time, difficulty of technology instruments to repeat indicator like an, let's say GIS at the local level. So that's one the key challenge that we're facing. And also the approach of planning, you are shifting from the vertical planning for more integrated and horizontal planning, so that you can harmonize all the policies and programs into one goal. Also, we are other challenge to identify the relevant indicators for each sectors that aligned with the CDGs. Because I said before, there is a lack of technical capacity, and appropriation of CDG is still a lot to do in Mozambique. I think other constraint is sharing information. It's difficult to get information from even inside the government. So there is a bureaucracy, there is a lot of, I think there's a limited protocol mechanisms that are in place. You need to adopt some integrated platform to share information, but still a very big changes. That is not good for the decision makers, that they can't take the best strategy or best decision for the country. So you are proposing to address all these challenge issues, to have those development capacity programs through different forums. I think this one is a good opportunity to share how other countries are progressing in this field of monitoring or field of statistics, networking, and also I think other key area is localizing the CDGs at the local level. You are adopting some pilot initiative like mainstream green economics and local planning. Is a pilot exercise, but you need to replicate at the national level. But of course, we have limited resources and a lot of priorities, so it's going to be a challenge to mobilize funds, to influence the decision makers, to give priority in these issues. I think other issue that I think we need a lot of support in resource mobilization mechanisms. How to write fundraise proposals regarding the sustainable development programs and other sustainable issues. Summarize is that I have to share regarding our capacity needs and challenge and what you planning for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that this exemplifies how important it is to conduct a situation analysis and a needs assessment, because the only way forward is first to understand where one is, what are the gaps, what are the strengths. And I think that the capacity needs assessment was a good tool, and then each country, of course, has their own priorities, their own challenges. So these types of exercises are extremely important, and I would like to thank both our presenter, Mr. Chamo, for sharing your challenges, because usually participating countries, they like to share their innovative practices, but sharing challenges is also, very important, because you can learn much, both from the challenges and from the success stories, and I'm sure they also have many good success stories, but I thank him for bringing his challenges and sharing them with all of you. And also I would like to thank my colleague, Mr. Kaping Yao, for a very good presentation. And please join me for a warm round of applause. I would like to invite them to take their seats. Thank you. So now we are into the third session of this partnership session. And this will have actually two subcomponents. So the first one will be a presentation of the activities of UN DESA on Goal 16, and also a brief overview of the United Nations Public Service Awards. And for that, I would like to invite Ms. Stefania Senese, Governance and Public Administration Officer, to join me. Now I will probably have to go over there. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And I don't have with me the list, but I think that we have some 2018 UNPSA UN Public Service Award winners here. So please, let's just give them a warm round of applause, because I will not mention all of them because some of them may have already left, so I want to do justice to all of them. So this is the Global Capacity Development Support for Goal 16 that UN DESA is currently developing. And it is based on an understanding of what are the capacities to implement the SDGs. And this is more at the level of the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. So we are one division that is working on Goal 16, but we have several divisions that are covering various aspects. And all of the divisions have realigned their work to cover the principles and requirements of the 2030 Agenda. So as much as all of you had to do this exercise, we ourselves have also had our own challenges and try to realign all of our work to better help member states also realign their work to the 2030 Agenda. So in essence, the capacities are, and we have discussed this over the past few days, institutional coordination through integrated approaches, and we just heard that that is one of the most common and most difficult challenges, especially setting up whole of government approaches to support policy coherence. The second one is policy coherence per se, and this requires actually a different set of skills and knowledge, which is strengthening national analytical and quantitative capacities to conduct cross-sectoral analysis and identify policy options that help achieve national goals. And this has to do with the interlinkages between the goals, and the interlinkages are through the targets of the goals. So it is very important to understand what are the trade-offs between the various sectors and what are also the synergies, and then how do we do forecasting and build scenarios to understand that if we use more land, what's going to happen to the water, and so, because everything is interconnected. And it's very important to keep this in mind when we are thinking about sustainable development, is really looking at a balanced approach between promoting economic growth, but at the same time making sure we're including everybody, especially the vulnerable groups, and at the same time that we are not harming the environment, but we are preserving the environment for future generations. So this really requires a different set of skills that need particular attention. The third one is about social inclusion, and you all know that we talk about disadvantaged vulnerable groups, and it's very important to reach the furthest left behind as the 2030 Agenda, but that requires specific institutional arrangements, mechanisms involving people in service delivery, responding to their needs. The other one is about evidence-based policy, monitoring and evaluation, and we heard that in our session on data and how important it is to have, data that is of good quality, it's reliable, it's disaggregated. And that requires building capacities of the national statistical offices. But also it requires raising awareness about the importance of data across all ministries. And then the means of implementation, which is strengthening capacities of the national systems to mobilize resources and also to mobilize partnerships. So this is in a nutshell how we have realigned our work. So we call this the little SDG house. Our division used to be called the Division for Public Administration and Development Management, but after the 2030 Agenda, we have realigned our division's name and also the work. And so now it's the Division for Public Institutions and Digital Government. And you can see that we have also regrouped all of our work under effective, inclusive, and accountable institutions, and you will see many of the issues that we discussed. And our entry point is the Sustainable Development Goal 16, but we know that Goal 16 is an entry point, and it's fundamental to achieve all the other goals. So I won't go into the details because I have 3 minutes. In terms of the global initiative on Goal 16, with a particular focus on effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions, our program focuses on 4 interrelated areas: on institutional coordination for policy coherence, transparency and accountability, equipping public servants with the capacities to implement the SDGs, and finally, the government innovation and inclusive public service delivery with a big focus on digital transformation and digital government. So in terms of what is our approach, so our approach being at the United Nations headquarters, first of all, we work with other partners, and so that is key because we need to work as one. So we work with regional commissions, UN country teams. We have our office here in Korea, the UNPOG. But the idea is really to link the principles and the intergovernmental process to the country level capacity building through the development of innovative methodologies that can be scaled up, and then also lessons learned. Now, because I spoke about the intergovernmental process, the voluntary national reviews are a very important tool to accelerate progress, and we feel that countries are very committed towards the SDGs because by 2019, 146 countries will have presented their VNRs, with only 47 countries yet to present. And you can see that there is almost equal distribution among the regions of the countries that have presented. And in 2019, so next year in July, 51 countries have volunteered to present their national voluntary reviews to the high-level political forum, which will take place in July at United Nations headquarters. Time over. And sorry, just 2 more minutes. And you see here there are 10 countries that are reporting for the second time, so there's no limitation in terms of, countries can report for a second time. They find it useful because stakeholders are engaged, there is a dialogue. It's really an opportunity to share with the world what the challenges are, but also what are the key progresses. And what is extremely interesting is that if you visit the website, website of DESA, you will find the reports, of all the countries, and that's a great source of information and knowledge. So I really invite all of you, and we will send you the links to the VNRs. And you can see here, so the ones in blue are the ones that are going to report for the second time, which also include countries from Asia, and then the ones in green are the countries from Asia and the Pacific that are going to be, and I know that many of these countries are present here today, so I think they're embarking on this process, and it's very interesting, and we would be happy also to discuss further if there's any need for capacity for support. We would stand ready. I mean, my division, but also other divisions in DESA, on different capacities, we can always engage them. I also wanted to mention that the high-level political forum of next year, which will be under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council, will be held between 9 and 18 July, and then from 16 to 18 July, there will be a high-level ministerial meeting, and the title is going to be Empowering People and Ensuring Inclusiveness and Equality. So 2019 will really focus on Leave No One Behind, and you know that Goal 16 is one of the goals that is going to be reviewed. At the same time, in 2019, there will be a high-level political forum summit under the auspices of the General Assembly, and this will be held in September because every 4 years then there is a general review. And this will be attended by the heads of state and government and reaffirmed the shared commitments to realize the SDG by 2030. So in a nutshell, what do we do in terms of capacity development support activities? Our annual flagship capacity development forum for peer-to-peer learning, an exchange of innovative practices is the UN Public Service Day Awards and Forum. I know that many of you have already participated, and especially the winners have been there to receive their prizes. We also organize regional symposiums like this one, but in all regions of the world. So we've had one in Latin America, we've had one in Africa, in various parts of the world. In Asia, this is the second one. Then we organize study visits as well as support to member states upon their request through advisory services. So if we receive a request from a country, we have advisors in the various areas that I mentioned that can go and provide, can facilitate and support. Then national workshops and learning programs. We develop toolkits, training material. But the methodology that we are utilizing is really to work together with others. So, for example, with the schools of public administration, it's a co-creation. It's not us developing the tools, but it's really developing these tools together with those who are going to be utilizing them, because we believe they have the knowledge, but we can facilitate, but the knowledge rests with the schools in this case. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions or you need further information about the various events and the capacity development activities that we are undertaking, this is my email. Feel free to contact us with any type of request. Thank you very much. And now I will give the floor to my colleague, Stefania Senese, who will talk about the UN Public Service Awards. And please apply. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to be here again to talk about the United Nations Public Service Awards program. The UNPSA is the most important recognitions of excellence in public service. It rewards the creative achievements and contributions of public sector institutions to lead to a more effective and responsive public administration in countries worldwide. It was launched actually in 2003 to promote and support innovation in public service. Then with the 2030 agenda, we revised the program. So now it's actually aligned to the principle of the 2030 agenda and to the Sustainable Development Goals. So the UNPSA promotes and rewards innovation excellence in public service in support to the realization of the SDGs. It actually managed by UN DESA through our division for public institutions and digital government. So what's the purpose of the United Nations Public Service Program? It's an annual competition that actually promotes visibility, professionalism in public service. More specifically highlights innovation in governance. We know that innovation in public service can actually lead to a good governance, and this is a very important support of the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals, reward excellence in public sector, motivate public servants for further promote innovations, enhance professionalism in the public service, raise the image of public service, and then also it's very important venue platform that enables member states then to collect successful practices. So we are very happy to use the UNPSA as a platform to disseminate innovative practices that actually are being undertaken around the world. So what are the categories for this year, 2019? We have 5 categories this year. The first one is deliver inclusive, equitable services to leave no one behind. Category 2, ensure integrated approaches in the public sector institutions. Category 3, developing effective and accountable public institutions. Category 4, promoting digital transformation public sector institutions. And category 5, promoting gender-responsive public service to achieve the SDGs. This is done in collaboration with UN Women. So actually, the awards are given out according to 5 UN regional groups, Africa, Asia and the Pacific, Eastern Europe, Latin America and the Caribbean, and Western Europe and other groups. It's very important to say that actually nominations are evaluated according to the regional groups, meaning nomination from Africa are evaluated according to the African context, and therefore Asia to the Asian context. This is very important to ensure a level play field of nominations. So there is, in order to apply to the UNPSA, we have 2 sections, the nominator and the nominee. We accept self-nomination, but also we are very happy that maybe other institutions or the private sector can nominate a successful initiative from their country. So who can be nominated? The award is open to all public sector institutions at the national, state, and local level. From all the UN member states. And also PPP are actually accepted, but the lead nominee must be a public sector institution. As I said, anyone can nominate except individuals, so we are very happy that other partners can promote the innovation in their countries. I just want to go quickly just to show you others important actually slides, including some information. So basically nominations are evaluated based on some criteria, as you see, alignment with the 2030 agenda, significance, innovation, transferability, sustainability, impact, and also stakeholders. So the initiative must demonstrate that actually there was an engagement of other stakeholders. How to apply, this is the website of the UNPSA Awards. So it actually, you will be linked also if you access to our division website. And then you have to fill out nominations. The nomination can be made in one of the 6 UN official languages: English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, and Russian, even if we actually invite you to do it in English and French. That are the official language, or the 2 official languages of the UN Secretariat. And also we ask for some supporting documents. So we started the nomination the 10th September, and that will be closing on 30 November this year. Some data, just quickly, I just want to show you. We have data from 2007, so we started with very few nominations, 180, and then we reached up to almost 900, and then we closed for 1 year, we just revised the program, and then we had reached 600, 400. And then the countries, if you can see, we started in 2007, we had 44 countries, and then we reached out up to 81 and 79. So we are very happy about this result. So also quickly, I have only 1 minute. So as you can see, in 2018, we actually received 176 nominations from Asia. So we really are in the land of innovation. These are some of the UNPSA winners from last year. I'm very happy that we have here Thailand, Indonesia, we had Korea, so I'm very happy they're actually they have joined this symposium. Then we have Western European groups, Austria, Spain, Switzerland, Colombia, and Kenya. We had also a UNPSA winner, India, from 2017. These are some of the innovative cases. I see Indonesian addressing malaria prevalence And from the Republic of Korea, we had the Tax Administration Division that it was an initiative that actually increased the disclosure of fiscal information to the public. And from Thailand, integrated approach of comprehensive cervical cancer to actually improve women access to quality healthcare. This is some very, yes, time over. I just quickly wanted to go to the last slide. This is some picture of the last year United Nations Public Service Forum. So I would like to, actually, we would like to invite you, yes, to send nomination for this year, but also to the 2019 United Nations Public Service Forum that will be held in Azerbaijan this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefania, yes. And both Stefania and I have actually coordinated this program at different times in our career. So we are very attached to it because we think that that innovation exists in all corners of the globe, and especially that public servants are innovators. And too often they're, the media doesn't give credence to the hard work, professionalism of public servants. So this program is a program really to also motivate the public servants, reward them, and make sure that their good initiatives are replicated, or at least the ideas can be shared with other countries. So we believe that it's very important that you share your initiatives, not only because you can win an award, but really because you are sharing with others what you have done, how you have done it, and then you can participate in the forum and share that knowledge. So thank you, Stefania, for that. Now we will proceed to the next section of this session, and this section is about looking at the capacity development programs and activities that UN DESA, DPIDG, and UNPOG have carried out. So in a way, how were they and if they were useful? And also looking at the future. So part of it is past and then also future. How can we better support you? How can we better support member states in their efforts to build capacities, and what is useful? So regional symposiums, are these useful, or other types? So I would like to now invite to the stage the following speakers. Mr. Shahryar Kader Siddiqui, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Finance from Bangladesh. Ms. Meilene Rosales, Assistant Regional Director, National Economic and Development Authority of the Philippines. And then Mr. Inoke Nagatalevu, Acting Manager for Corporate Services Division, Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development, National Disaster Management from Fiji, and apologies if I have misspelled some of your names. So, yes. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists. So now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Shahryar Kader Siddiqui, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Bangladesh, to provide in 3 minutes some key highlights that you would like to share with the audience and us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I participated on two occasions, last year here in Korea and then in Singapore this year. So it was a very good learning opportunity for me in one sense. The other was what's happening in the other world. It was very important to learn about how digital government functions in many countries, how the citizens are coping with the new technologies and how smart cities are changing different aspects of living. And also the need for governance in technology, as long as the new technology, especially the frontier technologies, are changing everything, and how to tackle the future challenges. So these are the things that I could understand, and after getting this knowledge, I presented these things and shared with my colleagues in my ministry and also with my colleagues so that we can understand about the future thinking aspects of our country. So, and also how to take responsibility to initiate things to do about the future. And this also helped me to make network with many friends around the world, and which definitely, we have also created 2 forums. It's a WhatsApp forum, so almost every day we are getting information that what they are doing, and also how they are, we are sharing our ideas, and also many of our countries, our participants are visiting countries, so we can be connected together. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think your 3 points, learning from others, is very important in tackling present and future challenges, and then scaling up and sharing the knowledge with colleagues, and then the aspect of networking. I think that's also quite relevant. So now we will hear from so thank you very much. We will hear from our next distinguished speaker, Ms. Meilene Rosales, Assistant Regional Director, National Economic and Development Authority from the Philippines. You have the floor.
Thank you, Adriana. Actually, my name is pronounced as Maylin.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So please omit the E at the, yes. Please give me a moment to greet my brothers and sisters from other countries. Good afternoon. This might be the shortest talk that I'm going to make in my whole life, but I'm going to spend the first minute smiling at you all, if only to show my happiness for being a part of this activity. Really, this is a very big opportunity for me. My task this afternoon is really just to give a feedback on the impact of the course that I attended in Singapore, similar to my neighbor here, seatmate. I was lucky enough to be one of the participants in the Executive Development course. It has a long title, let me just read it. Digital Government for Transformation Towards Sustainable and Resilient Societies, the Singapore Experience. Actually, after my attendance in that course, I fell in love with the country. Because for me, it was really a showcase of everything that we have learned inside the function room. Okay? Singapore as a smart nation, a high-tech country, but the impression that I get was that it has urbanized. Yes, it is modernized. It has all the high-tech advantages, no? The citizens are enjoying the benefits of high-tech, high technology, but then it has maintained a perfect harmony with nature, very clean and very green. And in terms of the content of the course, I say a big yes. It has really impacted on me as a government official and as a Filipino, because it covered a complete menu of topics, touching on the very basics, the fundamentals of digitalization, the concepts of artificial intelligence. It was the first time I ever heard the term. The concepts of blockchain and digital government, etc., etc. And I also learned a lot from the stories of other countries who may not be as progressive as Singapore. And I also say yes, a resounding yes to the impact, because the methodology used was really very good. It was the right mix of room-based presentations and lectures supported with site visits. Oh, I love the site visits. We even had a trip to the night safari. So we became tourists and we became learners. And it's a good experience because we did not learn only by listening to the very many lectures, but also learning by seeing. No? And it means a lot for the Philippines because we still have a long way to go to becoming a smart nation. Digital infra in my country is still very weak. In fact, our Department of ICT is still a baby. It's newly born. I think it was created only in 2016. And so given these circumstances in the Philippines, we welcome any capacity development activities such as that one that I attended and this symposium. And every opportunity to learn really is a step nearer to becoming a smart nation. But the most important lesson learned in that course that I attended, which I would like to share to everyone here, is that at the core of ICT, digitalization and everything is the human being. The human being. So ICT is not just is not the end in itself. Rather, it is just the means. So technology and modernization per se should not be our end goal, but to use it as a vehicle to better off our lives and the lives of our children. And for me, and I think for the rest of the Filipinos, this is what is SDG all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maylene. Did I say it correctly, Maylene? Yes, very good. Thank you very much. No, that was a passionate intervention, and I think it's very inspiring for us as well. And of course, we are very thankful to the government of Singapore because they made that, training activity possible, and we actually started planning that training when we held the first regional symposium, and then Singapore participated, and then they offered to host the training. So it was a good follow-up, and if we have future similar events or future partners or governments that are willing to share their experience, we will certainly also inform you. And I think that the learning from other countries is actually what we think is the appropriate way to support governments, because as I said in my first intervention, we don't have all the solutions, but we can facilitate the peer-to-peer learning, and I think that's great, a great opportunity. And I liked your comment about, being a learner and then learning by seeing, and I think that's also very impactful. And finally, that ICTs, are not the goal. The goal is the well-being of people. So people still should be at the center of any effort, including the digital transformation. So thank you very much. That was very insightful. Now I would like to invite our third panelist, Mr. Inoke Nagatalevu. Sorry if I hope I pronounced it, but you can correct me. Acting Manager for Corporate Services Division, Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development, National Disaster Management from Fiji. You have the floor, sir.
Thanks, Adriana. First, Mbula. In Fiji, we greet each other by saying Mbula. If you could turn to the person next to you and say Mbula. Mbula means life. So when you say Mbula to someone, you're giving forth life. Thank you. The session that if you think hers was short, mine's going to be even shorter. So the session I went to was in Sri Lanka, the practitioner-to-practitioner forum on basically the same topic. That was in August. So it was a good initiative for knowledge sharing, especially for seeds, because for seeds we're pretty small economies compared to other countries, so it was a good opportunity for us. So some of the take-backs that we went home with was, I think John Jack had mentioned it this morning about creating a database. No ICT initiative or anything you do can be successful if you do not have a database. So one of the good lessons we learned was of the one that Sri Lanka has, which is called the PRISM. It's a real-time information and situation monitoring app that's used by the National Disaster Management Office for disasters. The second one we took back was the processes on the VNR, the Voluntary National Review of the SDGs. So we had a session with, I think it was Dr. Yalagama from in Sri Lanka, and yeah, we went back to Fiji and we spoke with our climate change division, and we were able to give them advice on the processes to follow. So we're hoping to have our VNR presented in July next year at the High Political Forum in New York. Another one was an SMS-based, we're talking about early warning systems for disabled people. So with the early warning systems that we currently have are mostly for able people that can hear, can see. So we're talking about one for the hearing impaired. So one best practice that we were taught there was the SMS-based early warning systems for the hearing impaired. So with that, we had to go back and have talks with mobile companies, mostly Digicel and Vodafone. We're still in the process of getting that. Because currently the one we have is called a Rapid Pro one, but with Rapid Pro it's not accessible to everyone. You have to register first. So yeah, we're currently in the process, and there's many initiatives, and I'm learning a lot as well. Yeah, so hopefully we will take back a lot that we've learned here back to our countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, these takeaways are also extremely important, learning on good practices and going back and then refining what already exists, and learning about the database, I think, and also about the VNR process, because again, countries can learn from other countries that have already presented, you know, how they went about it, what were the challenges, and actually, I just wanted to mention that UN DESA has also published a handbook to prepare for the VNR. And again, we are going to send that link to all of you because it has a very detailed kind of explanation of what are the steps to prepare the report. So it gives you a framework. Of course, then it's up to you and your specific condition, but at least it gives a framework on how to prepare the report. And I think that's quite useful as well. So I would like to really thank our distinguished panelists for their insights, the takeaways, and their inspiration and also commitment, because what I heard is not only inspiration, you know, today, but commitment tomorrow. So thank you again very much, and if you could please join your seats and a warm round of applause. Thank you, Stefania, as well. So now we are going to move on to the fourth section of this subsession, where we will listen to the programs or training programs of various training institutes, agencies, entities, and each speaker will have 7 minutes, and I would like to now invite the distinguished panelists to join me on stage. Ambassador Mr. Yung Sam Ma, he's Director of UNITAR CIFAL in Jeju. Ms. Togzan Azmetsanova, Specialist on Partnership, UNDP Astana Civil Service Hub. Mr. Hong Gu John from NIA, E-Government Global Academy. And Mr. Sunil Jenes, Director of Global Digital Government, SAP Africa. Thank you very much. And so now we will begin this session, and this is going to be also a very interesting session because we will hear what these various institutions have to offer, and there could be some follow-up activities, follow-up actions, and so every time we have a regional symposium, we also want to invite others, because we are not the only ones. I mean, the world is full of institutes and different entities that can offer their knowledge, their learning, their tools. Therefore, let me begin this session by inviting Mr. Yung Sam Ma, the Director of UNITAR, CIFAL Jeju, to deliver his remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I'm representing the CFAR Jeju. CFAR Jeju is a part of the UNITAR's network. UNITAR, as you know, the UN organizations which deals with training and researches. And this is the UNITAR cannot cover all the works all around the world. That's why they have established 17 regional training centers. CFAR Jeju is one of them. This is the 17 centers, the locations. And our CFAR Jeju has 4 priorities, the areas, urban governance and planning, economic development, and social inclusion, and also environmental sustainability. Since its establishment in 2010, we have already conducted over 110 events, and beneficiaries reaches about 5,000. And this year we have 37 events, 13 workshops, 5 youth forums, and 17 citizenships, education, and 2 UN symposiums. Why we need the partnership? That is one of the key issues we have always thought. Recently, I found that our organization, like all of your organizations, have very similar problems. We do not have enough budget. We do not have enough resources persons, and also we have quite a small network. So if we have a partnership with other organizations, we thought that we can solve all these problems. That's why we try to have expanded the partnership. Our CFAR Jeju have a partnership with the local institutions and the governments, as well as the NGOs and the UN institutions. I'm going to talk about our partnership within our group. This is the Asia Pacific group of CFARs. So we initiated the cooperations among 4 different CFAR centers in Asia Pacific region. One is Shanghai, China. The other one is the Philippines, and the last one is Newcastle, Australia, and ourselves. We have 4. Last year, we initiated a meeting to coming to the Jeju Island, and also representative from the headquarters of UNITAR participated and supported it. And the next the meeting was held this year in Newcastle, Australia, and we signed the declarations for the partnership. This is the one. This is the document was also supported and initiated by the executive director of UNITAR. Then we talked about how we can cooperate, how we can make the joint program. So on the global migration, we are going to have the one workshop with the Philippines, Newcastle, Shanghai, and Jeju. And now I want to explain the partnerships, bilateral partnerships with our CFAR network in Asia Pacific. This is with the CFAR Philippines. We already have, every year we have a joint workshop. And with the CFAR Shanghai, we had the ICT based workshop. And this is with the Newcastle CFAR. And the internship program is also on the way. Now we have the global network, the partnerships with the CFAR Atlanta. We have 3 interns. They were dispatched to our centers for the training. And also we have quite a good advice on our workshop on sustainable tourism. And with the CFAR Malaga, we also had their good cooperation already. And also, this is just with our partnership with the headquarters. So we had last year's the one workshop on road safety, and also we are going to have another one this year on ecotourism. Hiroshima office, UNITAR has regional offices. One of them is Hiroshima, and we are going to have natural disaster risk reductions, the workshops next year together. Up to now, I just talked about all the our partnership within the UNITAR's framework. We also have a partnership with international organizations, government, NGOs, and the institute. So this is a partnership with the international organizations. With the UNEP, we had a letter of intent, and then we try to have joint programs. So always, whenever we have a workshop on climate change and sustainable development, usually UNEP send very good resources persons for the lectures. With the partnership with the UNDP, this is a very important one. We had 3 years. The first phase program was successfully done, and then we are going to have a new one. And this one, with the UNPOG, we have a very constant consultations each other, and the UNISDR is another one. We are going to have a workshop together. IOM, we have already established the relationship, and also very recently we had the workshop with the UNESCO office. Then the local institute and NGOs, we have one with the Seoul National University, and this is the Korea Association of International Development Cooperation, and also Korea University Development Center, and GTC, and Jeju National University, KOICA, and the JTO, this is the Jeju Tourism Organization, and also Jeju Peace Institute, GIP, and this is one of the very good NGOs, Jeju Ole, which produced a very good walking trail all along the coast of the Jeju Island. And we also have partnership with the International Expo for the electric vehicles. Overall, we think that this is very important to have formalized our partnership agreement with the international organizations and NGOs, and also private sectors. And the implemented agreement, as well as the consortium project development, is very important. So we are going to continue to have such a partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ma, for this excellent presentation. It's really impressive what UNITAR is doing with its 17 regional centers. I mean, its work, outreach, with 110 events and 5,000 people, and also all the partnerships that you have established. I think you are an inspiration for us, so thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Ms. Togzan Azmetsanova, Specialist on Partnership from UNDP Astana Civil Service Hub. You have the floor.
Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to stress the importance of today's discussion because partnership and international collaboration are among key factors of any public service development, its success and sustainability. In addition, the importance also should be highlighted because of gathering both practitioners and academics from different parts of the world, sharing the same objective of advancing public institutions, their governance and administrative systems through meaningful international partnerships, allowing us to think global, act local. Astana Civil Service Hub is very much pleased to be invited to this symposium. It's a particular pleasure and honor for me to address you today at this event. Our hub, or simply just a hub without any Astana civil service, is an institutional multilateral platform that supports the efforts of governments of countries in building institutional and human capacity. Towards addressing modern concerns in the field of international cooperation on civil service development, the government of the Republic of Kazakhstan, together with the United Nations Development Programme, had initiated the creation of the Civil Service Hub in Astana. In line with this, the hub from its very inception has been promoting three main pillars: partnership and networking, capacity building and peer-to-peer learning, research and knowledge management among its participating countries for stronger, effective, accountable public service institutions. Composed of 40 participating countries, as I told, composed of 40 participating countries ranging from OECD members to CIS and ASEAN, the hub has become one of the centers of knowledge and expertise with flexible and demand-driven agenda. Within the last 2 years, the number of participating countries has been increased with 4 more representations: Brazil and Bangladesh in 2017, and Uzbekistan and Montenegro in 2018. Taking this opportunity, I would like to pay attention to cooperation with the Republic of Korea. We highly appreciate the continuous cooperation with this country that started at the hub's founding conference, where the Republic of Korea became one of the participating countries. Since then, we have arranged a number of successful joint events. Special thanks to Dr. Kim Pan-suk, Minister of Personnel Management, with whose ministry we had a ceremony of signature of the Memorandum of Cooperation earlier this year in August. We have more than 30 institutional partners from different parts of the world. We are partnering a lot on joint activities with many well-known and acknowledged international organizations, as well as leading universities. For instance, having joined the OECD's Effective Institutional Platform, in 2016, the Hub successfully pioneered Peer Learning Alliance on public service delivery composed of Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Kazakhstan. As a result, we commissioned the development of the country case studies that reflect the best practices in public service delivery through one-stop shop service centers. This year, we have also launched second Peer Learning Alliance on e-government with total amount of 7 countries in combination. The Hub considers experimentation of innovative reforms and solutions in the field of public service delivery as a pivotal facet of its activity. We launched the Innovative Solutions Scheme aimed at supporting initiatives to modernize public administration, improve public service delivery, and encourage innovation in public institutions. Call for applications is announced on our website, and we encourage all of you to participate. The establishment of the Hub is premised on a long-term capacity development strategy that maximizes South-South, North-South, and triangular cooperation partnership as source of global experience and solutions, facilitating the promotion of innovative approaches in civil service systems organization and the development of its human resources in delivering high-quality public service to citizens. Since our foundation, the Hub signed more than 35 cooperational agreements with a number of international and national institutions that ushered many opportunities for joint research, capacity building, and partnership development. In 2014, the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation awarded us with a special prize for strengthening regional and inter-regional cooperation. Looking back at 5-year history, I am pleased to share key lessons learned. First, appropriately managed expectations are vital to successful partnerships. From the very beginning, it was crucial to outline the right expectations. At the founding conference, we agreed to use the term a participating country instead of the term a member. which echoes the hub's flexibility approach. Second, the hub's agenda and activities are flexible and demand-driven. We recognize that the pace of implementing reforms varies among countries, which alter their priorities accordingly. Therefore, we adjust to such changes and periodically conduct needs assessment studies. Third, we do not develop direct recommendations to the governments, but rather serve as a knowledge platform on modern trends, innovations, and best practices. The governments of the participating countries themselves decide on solutions which best fit their unique cultural, political, and social contexts. As a result, over the past years, it is obvious that we have built strong partnership. We highly value our collaboration with key partners, civil service agencies of the participating countries. Overall, jointly with the participating countries, we have conducted about 80 capacity building activities for more than 2,000 civil servants from 100 countries. By the way, as a sample of ongoing work, right these days we are organizing joint activity with the Ministry of Information Society and Administration of the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia on contemporary challenges in public service and the role of partnership for reaching solutions with participation of countries from Baltics, Central Asia, Eastern Europe, Eurasia, and Caucasus, as well as professional associations working in this region. Last but not least, the Hub created its own roster of international experts who conduct joint research, facilitate capacity development, and take part in joint events of the participating countries. Now, our roster expanded to about 100 experts overall. I invite all of you to consider joining our roster. Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, finally, let me conclude with Henry Ford's famous quote: "Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. Therefore, our assembling today is already a huge success." The Hub's belief in power of collaboration and sustainable partnerships. Effectively, any change or innovation is almost impossible without collaboration. I wish you every success in future cooperation endeavors and prosperity to your home countries. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on winning the award for regional cooperation. It's quite impressive, the number also of cooperation agreements, more than 35, and also the philosophy of being a knowledge platform instead of providing direct recommendations, and especially the power of collaboration. So I'm very hopeful that this regional symposium will not only be step 1, but also step 2 and step 3, which is working together. And I hope this is just the first step. So thank you again for that insightful presentation. And now I have the pleasure to invite to the ledger Mr. Hong-Gu-jeon, NIA, E-Government Global Academy. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The staff informed me, very getting nervous of the time shortage. I tried my best to make it short. Thank you. I think today is the last day and the last session of the symposium. And I think this symposium is a good opportunity to discuss the global agenda and making a partnership with each other countries and institutions. And my name is Hong-Gu-jeon. I'm from South Korea. I'm working at the NIA, National Information Society Agency of South Korea, as a director of ICT and E-Government Global Cooperation Division. NIA has been in charge with the central role of development in the ICT and E-Government field of South Korea. A little bit so hard to see, but I'd like to give you a short instruction about mission and global partnership project for NIA. First, NIA is a government affiliate agency, mainly working with Ministry of Interior and Security on e-government and Ministry of Science and Telecommunication on ICT. NIA missions is make an effort to solve social issues and lead the future of the nation through informatization. To do this, we were planning national policies and researching latest global trend on ICT and e-government, and provide e-government services making systems and infrastructure. And we also doing an ICT pilot project and program and providing ICT educational program to bridge the digital divide. And to foster the global cooperation, we are carrying out ICT and e-government cooperative consultation and expanding communication channels through invitation training program. And our headquarters is in the Daegu city in the south, and the two branches in Seoul and the Jeju Island. Especially Jeju branch is called the Global Center, which is also I'm working at, and to cope with the various global cooperation agenda. And now I briefly introduce the 9 program and project of the NIA Global Center is focusing. And the first is the ITCC, ICT Cooperation Center. This center facilitates bilateral cooperation and informatization of both countries and then the partner countries through joint R&D exchanges. Each country is contributed a total of $1 million in cash or in kind for 3 years. And with this investment, Joint Steering Committee implement various joint projects. From the 2003, we have operated 10 ITCC, and now Brazil and Belarus is still operating. And next is the Korea ICT Learning Program. It is an invitation and outreaching and capacity building program to share the best and insightful knowledge for the ICT development by seminar and field study and mini workshop. Since 1998, about 5,000 participants from 130 countries, mainly public officers and the policymakers and the experts, have taken part in this program. And the category from the national ICT policies and the project management, infrastructure to ICT culture, and provide customized self-touring program. And next is the Information Access Center. We provide this multi-functional facilities which include ICT training lab, internet lounge, and the seminar room, and administrative office. I aim to offer opportunity for ICT enablement of developing countries. Since 2002, we set up 56 IACs, and recently we try to make this place to be used for the ICT startup site for the entrepreneur. And we provide joint technical assistance on ICT with international organization. These projects are aimed to reinforce ICT partnerships through technical and manpower exchange. And based on the Korea's experience and expertise in the national informatization, we offer customized TA consulting and feasibility studies. Our cooperation partner is a multi-development bank like the World Bank, IDB, AFDB, and international organizations like UN, ASCAP, ABC ICT, and UNFOC in Songdo, we already stand. And we dispatching World Plans Korea ICT volunteers to developing countries. Volunteers mainly consisted of university students and faculties who have ICT training skills and are dispatched to support building ICT capacity to our partner countries. Since 2001, we about 7,500 volunteers are dispatched to over 70 countries. Next is e-government consulting. It's a very similar program of a technical assistance program which I've introduced before, but this program is focusing on the e-government development sector. For example, open government, on e-procurement system, and smart city. And next is e-government cooperation center is also a similar project of the with ITCC, and I provide intensive support to partner country on e-government sector. And now we are operating 3 centers in Indonesia, and Peru, and Kenya. And this EGCC served as a platform to support joint research project and consultation on e-government. And Korea e-government knowledge sharing program is another outreaching capacity building program on the e-government sector. And the last, since 2013, we operate the Global Academy to satisfy the education need on ICT and e-government from international and domestic level. Academy has own lecture room and dormitory facilities in the Jeju Global Center, and provide on-site training and business meeting if needed from the participant country. You can see the study course and the content at time at our homepage. And before finalizing short introduction of NIS global activities, I'd like to say that in a rapidly evolving technology shift, for example, IoT, cloud, big data, and blockchain, driven by the fourth industrial revolution, we should remember that the citizen first value is at the heart of the ICT and e-government policies. And to compete with the various challenges, global organization and institution and community should cooperate each more strongly to bridge the global digital divide. And NIA will continue to do so. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much again for this really insightful and impressive presentation. And we know that the Republic of Korea is a global hub for innovation and has so many innovative practices to share. And it's really impressive how much you have shared throughout the years. These ICT learning programs for that were 5,000 participants from 130 countries, the one on e-government, 70 countries, the digital divide. So I think that it's impressive, and I believe that perhaps many of you will be interested as well to discuss with him, but also with the other esteemed panelists during the roundtable discussion. So if you want further information, you may do so. But now we have our final, as they say, last but not least, panelist. And I would like to introduce Mr. Sunil Jenes. He's the Director of the Global Digital Government of SAP Africa, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Such a warm welcome. Now, before we start, please don't put up those papers. I know I have limited time. Can you reach out to the person next to you and shake their hands? If you don't know them, find out their name, please. Can you do that? Just reach out. Shake the person's hand, just ask them their name and where they're from, if you don't know them already. So this is the power of the symposium, and I think I personally would like to thank Adriana and her team, all the participants, all the speakers that have been here. It's been an enlightening experience. I think the summaries that the rapporteurs provided back to us gave us an excellent opportunity to understand what happened in some of the other rooms and some of the other events that happened prior to arriving here. And the entire format, Adriana must say, has been magnificent. I thought I should say this at the beginning because I won't have a chance to say this later because they'll kill my time, all right? Okay, so welcome, and I'm the last speaker today before we get to the last session, right? So I'm going to go through this. So I've been listening carefully over the last few days, and I thought it would be useful if we could talk about a pragmatic way of implementing partnerships. Now, I want to talk about Goal 17, partnerships for the goals, and I want to take you through a model, and I have this belief that no matter which country you come from, by achieving these 17 goals, you're also adding to the competitiveness of your country. And therefore, there needs to be a coordinated approach. It cannot be companies in private sector, the NGO sector, social enterprises doing whatever they want to, and the public sector as well. So I want to talk about what I will call an introduction to a sector or industry master plan. Now, I'll talk through a generic presentation for a few slides, and then I'll give you an example from South Africa, which is the automotive industry, and what they were able to achieve in, over the last 20 years. They had a very deliberate process because they're exporting thousands of cars, BMWs and other vehicles to the rest of the world. And I know that the Republic of Korea is also a great producer of cars, and maybe we could exchange some points on this. So, you know, to start off, if you go back to the countries that you would, and you're going to engage with the private sector, you don't want to engage with the private sector on a 1:1 basis. The idea should be to gather them in the industry cohorts. ICT sector, if you have oil and gas and mining, bring them together. If you have an automotive industry, you bring them together. And the engagement around the overall gross domestic product, indicators such as the social well-being of the population should be discussed with these industries. And taking into account the GDP, the employment levels, your exports, the technology that you have, and some of the sector trends. That should be the opening salvo and discussion with them. Then moving on is to look at the strategy and plan of that particular industry. What is the vision of the sector? Where do they want to go to? What are some of the barriers that you as government have created with all of your bureaucracy? You have to take some accountability for not achieving the SDG goals, as well as the private sector, NGOs, and the social enterprises. So this has to be documented, because generally if you don't document things and you don't measure it, it never gets done. Think about your lives as well. And typically, the issues of skills should come up, apprenticeship development, and looking into key programs. What kind of investment is needed? Is there a need for employment increase? And this one, we've heard about this earlier on, the policy constraints, and thanks to the colleague who summarized so well this session on digital government and the fourth industrial revolution. The policy constraints that are put in the way of the achievement of the, I don't see that, of the SDGs are really part of your challenge as government representatives. You need to dialogue more. As we said before, the private sector is not your enemy. The private sector is your friend, because governments do not create jobs. Yes, you have a lot of public servants, but the engine of growth in any economy is the private sector. If you have a thriving private sector, you have a lifeblood. And if you look around us, I think you'll get an idea and a sense of what I've been saying. Also, private sector needs to come back and say to government exactly what they're looking for. Essentially, there should be a commitment around three things. One, no corruption. We know it's so difficult because everywhere you go, you find this happening. Third world countries are reported more often because the first world countries have enough money to go in and put a magnifying glass on these countries. But we find it in every economy. The partnership with government, and last but not least, is the private sector being a good corporate citizen. And the good corporate citizenship is not about taking photographs and check handovers. It should actually be about achieving the SDGs within the context of a national development plan that may be in place. Many countries have this Vision 2030. So the private sector, as part of this partnership, should be working collaboratively with government to achieve this. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a master plan process. This was undertaken in South Africa in a very successful industry, which is the automotive industry. And what they did is, first and foremost, they, I'll use this cursor, they worked together with government and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and they put an oversight committee. They reviewed the base position, that is the as is. They took a scan of international policies and practices to see what were they did look at Korea as well, because, I mean, Kia is fabulous and Hyundai is fabulous. And then they did an in-depth competitor economy analysis. So the actual competitors sat down in a room like this and they discussed what the advantages of was BMW over Mercedes over Nissan or whatever the case is. And then they came up with the master plan, which means the industry took responsibility. And Adriana, this is important, that we all in this together. We cannot talk in silos. And lastly, assisting government to develop these policy instruments which do not retard the achievement of the SDGs. And you have the house of UN DESA. I made a little house here this morning, right, which was the house of the South African automotive industry. And in there you see they have the local markets, regional markets, technology and associate development. What the industry information is, mechanization, I don't see it, mechanization and the rest of it that is underpinning the actual achievement of the vision. I'm going to rush through this now. And then they came up with their objectives. So the entire industry came out with the objectives. One of the objectives they said is, we want to be at least, to grow the South African vehicle production to 1% of global output. That's a broad vision. But to achieve that, these SDGs have to be achieved in the process. A spin-off of what they're trying to achieve incorporates the country, the landscape, the GDP, the language barriers, the socio-economic differences. So it's an integrated approach. And like this, you can see they've got 6 variables which they put in place, double the total employment in the auto value chain, which speaks to no poverty, transformation of the South African automotive value chain, meaning more SMMEs coming into the system and participating, increasing local content, ensuring that you have a sustainable local economy, and improving the auto industry, and finally to deepen the value addition within the South African auto supply chain. Now, what do you think about this? I know we have Q&A and all of that after this. In your countries, just put your hands up if you've seen the industries in your country do this. Just put your hand up, please. 1. And that's India, right? 1, 2. So 2, and we have like how many countries here, Adriana? Like maybe 40, 50? 50 countries. 51. So we have some work to do when you go back. Please take this back. Please engage with your colleagues in government, and you reverse the pressure on the private sector by requesting this of them, by industry. And hopefully the next symposium, Adriana, the colleagues here will be reporting on the type of partnerships that we have. So I'm quickly going to talk about a few things. I've got to make this commercial message. I know time is over. The CEO of SAP Worldwide, Bill McDermott, he recently is like 2016, he does meet a lot of these people. But he met with 4 global leaders, Angela Merkel, then Hollande, and a few other European presidents, and he had a conversation with them. And this is part and parcel of what partnership should be about. There needs to be partnership engagement right at the level of the SecGen of the United Nations. There need to be engagement across the different divisions of the United Nations. We have 2 or 3 things that we're doing as a global company. One of them is our social sabbatical. So in Asia Pacific and Japan, we take the 0.5% of our top talent. We allow them to apply for what we call a social sabbatical. And we've done this already in Ahmedabad in India, in Colombo in Sri Lanka, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and you can see the rest. But essentially we give our best talent for a month to a social enterprise or to an NGO to work with and create partnership and make them much more competitive. And a few other things is, are any of you aware of the Social Enterprise World Forum? Have you attended that? Okay, it just took place now in Scotland, and they focus on social enterprises. And in your countries, don't ever doubt the validity and the impact of social enterprises. We've seen this in Bangladesh with the Grameen Bank and what Professor Mohammed Yunus was able to do and other parts of the world. And then in South Africa, we have the Siafunda centers, which is very much like the centers you're talking about, but not as sophisticated. I was very interested in that presentation. I spoke about Africa Code Week. The UN Women, we have a partnership with them. And then the ASEAN Foundation, because many of you have seen here are from Asia, right? We have a partnership with them to drive overall improvement of technology education with children. And with those few points, I am going to say thank you very much. You'll get the rest of the slides.
Thank you.
And on those slides, there are links which you can tap onto and read this stuff. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sonil. This was really the cherry on top of the cake. I think that's how it is said in English. I really think this has, you know, as you were speaking, I was thinking that in the future we should have a little bit more of time or a session or a section or a day on developing dialogue with the private sector, developing dialogue also with civil society, which is more mainstreamed, but it really deserves to have much more attention. And I also thank you for giving us some ideas on practical ways. And I think sometimes also that's the issue, that there is a lack of understanding. How do I approach them? Is it one by one? Now you told us no, bring them all together by sector, discuss. And then the concept of the global corporate citizen. Today we were discussing about the global citizen. The global citizen for the SDGs. So the global citizen, the global corporate citizen, we are all in this together because there is only one planet. And so we are all into this together, and we need to find win-win situations and bridge that perhaps lack of trust between the sectors, and then look together at solving the solution. So I really thank you. That was a very inspiring presentation, and I hope that we can have some follow-up discussions during the roundtables. And this actually leads us to the conclusion of this session. And now we will have time to discuss during roundtable, you know, at your own tables. You will have the time also to approach our distinguished panelists to see whether you would like to follow up with some concrete activities, as well as partner among yourselves. So I would like again to thank our distinguished panelists and invite them to join their seats, and thank them with a warm round of applause. And now it is 4:30, and the session will actually now finish at 5 o'clock, this session. So we were informed that we have a little bit more time for you to be discussing at the tables, and I know that you've been wanting to have more time to know each other and then network and see what kinds of partnerships can you form moving forward. Because if the symposium just ends here, then yes, it's a good learning experience, but what happens the Monday after the symposium, that's what counts. And so this session, although it's short, will hopefully help you on that. And I have here my distinguished colleague, Incheon. Please give her a warm round of applause. She's been working night and day to make sure that the symposium is successful, together with the other colleagues. I won't mention them all. Again, like Sunil said, I won't have the opportunity to say this, so let me say it now. Together with Kaping Yao, who's probably somewhere fixing the rooms, and all the other colleagues. I see Shelley and others from UMPOG. So really, this is a collective effort. So now, thank you, Incheon. Incheon, yes, now you're going to lead us through this exercise, please.
Thank you, Adriana. Before we move on to the roundtable discussions, I would like to take a brief moment on the advanced questionnaire that has been distributed to all participants. Up until the beginning of the symposium, we received around 40 responses from the participants, and the responses were very comprehensive and also diverse across various perspectives. And taking this opportunity, we would like to thank once again the participants who have kindly provided inputs and contributed to the discussion. These were the 4 questions that were added in the questionnaire. And before we begin the roundtable discussion, we would like to quickly, just briefly share with you what were the responses, the answers, inputs that were given by the participants. Unfortunately, due to the space and due to the time, we could not put all the responses that were received from the participants. But for example, for the first question, which was asking about the challenges of your country, regarding strengthening capacities of public institutions in achieving the SDGs. These were some of the responses that we've received, and many of the responses that we received were definitely highly relevant to the very themes that we have been discussing during this symposium. So we could see, for example, there were challenges such as strengthening better integration between public institutions, lack of understanding and awareness on SDGs among public officials and stakeholders, insufficient data collection, data system, weak involvement of non-state sectors, and weak coordination in public-private partnership, for example. And there was also the challenge in the very last, but not least, the need for building skills and changing mindset as well. The second question is, what were the solutions and approaches that were taken by the countries to address above challenges? And these are the answers shared, including conducting voluntary national review, trying to learn from other experiences from other countries, and attending regional program, capacity building, knowledge sharing, trying to sensitize stakeholders, and integration of SDG indicators and statistics information system, and so forth. And next question is about what are the areas, specific areas that countries themselves found were successful practices from their own countries. And these include, for example, high political will and leadership, e-government, e-services, also working with district councils and to mainstream and localize the SDGs. Yes, the rest you can read. Last question was on what are the expectations from the countries on how UN DESA DPIDG can support the capacity development of the countries for SDG implementation. And these included supporting, improving capacity and regional and international workshop training forums such as this very particular symposium, developing special topics and courses on SDG and embedding them in the public administration curriculum, and support development of communication strategy and so forth. So these are just the backgrounds to share more widely share what were the ideas that have been shared by the participants. And now we would like to begin the roundtable discussion. Thank you. I give the floor back to Adriana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mi-kyung. So thank you, and a big applause to Mi-kyung. Thank you for all this amazing work. Thank you. So now actually I feel bad because we will have only probably 15 minutes, at most 20 to discuss, and then just 2 minutes perhaps to hear back from all of you. There were a set of questions, but I would like to make those questions a little bit easier. So I have 3 questions here. Number 1, what would you like to learn more about and from whom? Please think about it. You heard about, so many presentations these days, so feel free to move around and then discuss. Number 2, what kind of support, knowledge can you offer? So again, if you're at a table, please discuss with the people around you. And then finally, what will you commit to do once you go back so that this becomes really an engagement and working together? So I will now give you 15 minutes, and please start the discussions. Is the board still available, Mi-kyung? The board, if they want to write on the big board, because perhaps that would be also another option. So enjoy the discussions at the round tables, and we'll be back in 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Thank you. Let's start with 2, and then let's see how it goes, because at 5 sharp we need to close for the closing session. So may I get one more on stage? No? Okay, please. And keep it to 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Talofalava, welcome. Again, and last hour of our discussion. Hope you learned something. And I think we're here to offer you something. So in my table, we have some really important people in our table. We have our honorable from Fiji. We have our president from Make It Right movement. And we have our colleague who looks after the Indian Ocean Commission. And then we have the representative from Congo. And from the Pacific Islands, Samoa is represented. So here, we are here to offer Make It Right movement and what they can help you and help us together. Offering to join together with training institutions to develop a more inclusive part of resilience. And most of the areas that they're looking at can be on project management, fundraising, corporate social responsibility, social media management, personal development of staff like me. Hosting a training in Malaysia is free, so they can provide the venue. All you need to do is bring your good self to Malaysia and they will host that training. We're also looking at maximizing on what we were talking in our session before, monitoring and evaluation and reporting of not only our development in our own respective countries, but also aligning the achievement of our SDG goals. So they're also looking at social return on investment. How can you improve the social loss that are seen in your own respective countries? So hopefully this is a handful takeaway for you in this symposium, and also creating those effective partnerships is really, really important. Not only effective, but productive. You know, you don't just take my card and not email me. So we need to share experiences, and when I give you my card, I hope you can email me and share that responsibility, experience. So thank you very much. Have a blessed, safe travel back to your home country. Thank you, UN DESA and UN POG. And thank you, Korea. Woo!
Thank you very much. Thank you. One more, because at 5 o'clock we need to stop.
Good evening, all of you. Good evening. Are you here? Oh. And in our countries, we namaste. I'm very happy to attend this UN program, and we are friends from Malaysia, Bangladesh, Bhutan. We are I tell you, I learned from Bangladesh for the SDGs, for process as well as presentation style. Many learns Bhutan. Bhutan also learn China and Korea. Is digitalization, e-governments and infrastructure. So we are many conclude from our groups. On behalf of I tell to groups ke our commitment is to that we are implementation SDG in our country, not only our country, but we going to grassroots level in the local government, and we will definitely work on that, and next time we will get the award from the UN. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. One more.
Good evening, esteemed delegates of this very important regional symposium. So my group had participants from 5 countries: India, Pakistan, Indonesia, Thailand, and Timor-Leste. These 3 days have been full of knowledge exchange. I would like to, our group as a whole would like to thank the Republic of Korea, UN DESA, UN POC, DPITT for giving us an opportunity to be a part of this very important symposium. I will take 1 minute to just say that very important support which we all need as a group, I think, is exchange of knowledge. SDG is one issue which everyone is implementing in its own way. So it is more of establishing the coordination between our ministries, the local units. So what do we want to take back is how do we implement SDGs at the lowest level of the bureaucracy or the functionary. So that is very important. We have very good examples from South Africa. We have very good examples. In the morning, we learned about the disaster risk reduction and the financing in the resilience. Very important issue being, shared by the Indian Ocean Commission Green Climate Fund. So a lot of experience, and the most important aspect which we want to take back is that we have to strengthen our local institutions if we actually want to have the SDG implementation in field. And I think a lot of exchange of ideas has been done, and it would help us really in field. And we all collectively should be implementing the 2030 agenda. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One more, we have 2 more minutes. Sunil, did you want to come and share? 2 minutes and then we're closing. Distinguished guests, I think we have to close now. I'm so sorry, Sunil. But it will be next time. We will share this by email, virtually. Thank you again to all of you. And please, could you kindly all return to your seats for the closing session. Thank you again. Warm round of applause to all the panelist speakers and all the participating countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adriana. Now it is time for the closing session of the symposium on strengthening the capacities of public institutions and developing effective partnerships to realize the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. To conclude this symposium, please join me welcoming Mr. Il-jae Kim, Deputy Minister for Government Innovation and Organization Management at the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, Republic of Korea, with his closing remarks. Please welcome him with a big hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Il-jae Kim, Deputy Minister for Government Innovation and Organization Management Office, the Ministry of Interior and Safety. First and foremost, I would like to send my warmest congratulations to everyone involved for hosting such a successful symposium for the past 3 days. As well, I'd like to thank Mr. Liu Jianmin, Under Secretary General for the United Nations, and Mr. Chung Jae-geun, Head of the United Nations Project Office on Governance, and his colleagues at the UN, and representatives of the Incheon Metropolitan City, and all of you who have attended at this wonderful symposium. Sustainable Development Goals are international commitments unanimously adopted at the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2015. 17 SDGs reflect common values that should be pursued by the entire humanity, regardless of region, race, or ideology. Each and every member state is striving to achieve these common goals by 2030. At this symposium, we have reaffirmed that if we are to implement the SDGs, each member state must build international, institutional grounds, and at the global level, intergovernmental, government international organization, and the public-private sector cooperation is called for. Also, we have learned that not only public organization, but also participation of all members of society, including the vulnerable, could enhance governance capacity to implement the SDGs throughout this symposium. In addition, it was made clear that the central and the local government should work better together, and training must be provided to public servants of the local government in order to accelerate the adoption of the SDGs at the local level. Some of the important values of the SDGs, such as respect for human rights, gender equality, and inclusive and sustainable economic growth, are in line with the Korean government's visions and the objectives of government innovation. Korea's 3 strategies of government innovation are operating the government based on social values, promoting citizen participation and cooperation, and gaining public trust in the government. Social values include human rights, gender equality, and alleviation of polarization. The Korean government started making effort to systematically promote citizen participation in order to implement the above strategies this year. Also, in September this year, the government declared its commitment to become an inclusive nation where no one is excluded from the public service. Such a commitment is parallel to the core concept of the SDGs, as it is designed to alleviate social inequality, enhance people's lives, and strengthen cooperation within society to effectively achieve objectives. The UN's declaration to ensure no one is left behind is deeply moving. I truly believe this symposium holds great significance as it has provided us with a meaningful opportunity to get closer to lofty ideals of the UN. Lastly, I would like to make one announcement. The Korean government is going to host the Open Government Partnership Asia Pacific Regional Meeting 2018 from November 5th to 6th in Seoul. Topics such as open government, citizen participation, and anti-corruption will be discussed throughout the meeting. If your time schedule permits, I hope you to attend the meeting in which representatives of Asian countries and civic organizations will participate. Now we are nearly done with the official sessions. You can finally sit back and relax. I hope you to create some great memories during the rest of your journey here in this beautiful country, Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kim, for your closing remarks. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Liu Jot-min, Undersecretary General, Economic and Social Affairs, United Nations, to the stage with his closing remarks. Please welcome him with a big hand.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Your Excellency, Minister Kim, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to have taken part in this symposium for opening and for closing. I thank the government of the Republic of Korea for hosting this event and for the excellent collaboration. In particular, I wish to thank again the Korean Ministry of Interior and Safety and the Incheon Metropolitan City for their support and great hospitality. As we are getting to the end of the symposium, let me share with you the following brief points as a kind of closing. First, over the past 3 days, we have witnessed the good progress made by many governments in Asia and the Pacific in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. Countries across the region have shared both their achievements and constraints in governance capacities. Second, during this symposium, we had the opportunity to discuss challenges and share information on how to strengthen public governance and bolster capacities of public institutions to support implementation of the goals. As noted by all of you, the critical role of public institutions, as laid out in Goal 16 of 2030 Agenda, is a foundation for the achievement of all the other goals. Without effective, inclusive, and accountable institutions, there can be no progress in the delivery of services such as health, education, clean water and sanitation, transportation, among others. Third, the issue of innovation has been highlighted throughout the symposium. We need strong public institutions to foster new ways of thinking and working that can build on the sustainable development goals. We need the multiple ideas and innovations coming from the public sector as well as civil society and the private sector. Fourth, many schools of public administration from across the region have taken part in the symposium and exchanged knowledge on how to shift mindsets and develop new competencies for civil services servants. You have served as a backbone in promoting the improvement of the public administration in all countries. I commend your unwavering efforts to put sustainable development goals at the center of your work and to transform capacities of public institutions. Fifth, we had the opportunity to learn about many innovative approaches to public service deliveries. Indeed, embracing a culture for excellence and innovation also contributes to bolstering accountability, fighting corruption, and engaging people in decision-making. For this reason, I'm encouraged by the innovations discussed here and countless others the world over to make progress in many critical areas, ranging from the challenges of an aging society to gender equality and youth empowerment. Sixth, we have also heard how important it is that the governments take a proactive role in regulating the use of rapidly evolving technologies, particularly artificial intelligence. We have learned about the key pillars for enabling a digital transformation that bridges divides within and among countries. Divides based on income, age, geography, and gender are still persistent in many parts of the world. Seventh, the importance of availability of timely, relevant data, including its availability for everyone to use, is highlighted. This aggregated data and a stronger focus on ending exclusion will be of particular relevance. This aggregated data helps us give a voice to all. Eighth, partnerships also play a critical role in knowledge sharing and peer-to-peer learning. Strong, sustainable, and multi-stakeholder partnerships are critical. We must find ways to leverage the expertise, technology, and the resources to deliver on the 2030 Agenda, its promise of a prosperous and peaceful future. More than ever, there is a need for collaboration across levels of governance and across sectors to solve the many present and future challenges that humanity faces. Only by working together can we shape a bright future and support our shared planet. Ladies and gentlemen, promoting innovation and supporting institutions in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals are top priorities of UN DESA. I hope that this symposium has provided you with new insights and tools. If even one idea shared during this symposium over the past days can be translated into a new strategy or policy, then we can see that this symposium has achieved its objectives. I hope that as a catalyst of change, you will return to your own countries with renewed commitment and inspiration to accelerate implementation of the 2030 Agenda and its 17 goals. Finally, I thank all of you for coming to this symposium. I hope that you have enjoyed your presence at this symposium. I wish you all have a safe trip returning home. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, for your closing remarks. Now we have come to the end of the symposium. We wish to thank all of the participants for your valuable input and knowledge sharing. Let's give a big hand to all of us who completed this symposium. On returning to your home country and respective workplaces, we encourage you to continue working towards effective SDG implementations. Finally, we wish you a safe journey home. Thank you.
우리 다시 만나는 날엔 춤을 추자 말없이